learn about the histology of the stomach or the microscopic study of the stomach. Before that, let us just revise the parts of the stomach in very short. Now you know this is the esophagus, which is opening into the cardiac end of the stomach. So it is also called as cardio-esophageal junction. It is called cardio-esophageal junction. It is also called as gastro-esophageal junction. Now you know this is the body of the stomach, and here you have got the pyloric sphincter that is present, which is guarding the pylorus of the stomach. So here we have got the pylorus of the stomach. Now this portion is the cardio-esophageal junction, which we are going to talk in detail. Now you see the GLT, the mucosal lining. Now you have got, these are the following are the layers of the gut or the alimentary tract. What are they? They are the mucosa, right? They are the mucosa. They are the mucosa. In the mucosa you have got the epithelium, which is lining. You have got the epithelium, right? And then you have got the lamina propria. And then you have got, after lamina propria, muscularis mucosa. Muscularis mucosa, which is present. Okay. Then after the first layer mucosa, then we get submucosa. And after this submucosa, we are having muscularis externa. So we have what? Muscularis externa, right? And the last layer is the serosa or the adventitial coat, which is the outermost. We are well versed with this. Now let us try to understand what exactly is this cardio-esophageal or gastroesophageal junctions, gastroesophageal junctions histology is. Now please see, now here we are starting from the esophagus, and esophagus we know it is lined by stratified squamous non-keratinized epithelium, right? So this is stratified squamous non-keratinized epithelium of the esophagus. This portion what I am trying to draw. Abruptly it is going to turn columnar. Okay, the layer is now becoming columnar. And then here if you observe, the epithelium will dip into the lamina propria. This epithelium of this gastroesophageal junction is dipping into the lamina propria. So here we have got the short columnar cells. What I am drawing is the short columnar cells occupying the upper half of lamina propria. So this is the upper half or the apical half of the lamina propria, and now this is the basal half. Now I am going to draw. The basal half is showing the oxyntic cells. Okay, it is showing oxyntic cells, then it is showing chief cells or the zymogen cells, and it is also showing the mucus secreting cells. Now what we are seeing is the oxyntic cells, which are giving the beaded appearance, okay, which are coming out of the basement membrane. You get this unevenness, and here these are the zymogen cells or the chief cells, what I am drawing. So this is your oxyntic cells or your parietal cells, okay, and now these are your chief cells or your zymogen cells. Are you understanding? The zymogen cells, what you are having here. Then you are having the nuclei present in the short columnar cells that are occupying the upper half of the lamina propria. This upper half is acting like the conducting part. Okay, this is the conducting part, and here this basal half is acting like the secretory part. So these are the tubular glands which are present at the cardio-esophageal junction, where there is change of epithelium abruptly from stratified squamous non-keratinized to the columnar cells. And please observe, the columnar cells in the apical portion has got some granules here. These granules are called Zymogen granules. What are they called? Mucigen granules. These mucigen granules, they are precursor of mucus. Are you understanding? Now are you getting it out? Generally we have learned in the respiratory tract there are special cells called goblet cells. The goblet cells are secreting mucus. Whereas here you don't have goblet cells at this junction. Then what is that you are having? You are having tall columnar cells. Those tall columnar cells are having in the apical part, the supranuclear portion is showing the presence of mucigen granules. These mucigen granules are the precursors of mucus. Okay? Even though we don't have goblet cells, there is no problem now here at this region of gastroesophageal junction or cardioesophageal junction. And you see here the lamina propria, the entire lamina propria is occupied by the gastric gland. Upper half of the gland is conducting part, lower half of the gland is basal part. And then we have got the muscularis mucosa, which is made up of inner circular muscles. This is the circular muscles which I am trying to draw. Okay, and here the nucleus, central oval nucleus, right? And then below this you have got the outer longitudinal muscle cord. This is the outer longitudinal muscle cord what we are having. So you have got the inner circular muscle cord, the outer longitudinal muscle cord of this muscularis mucosa. This is the layer. Then we get the layer of submucosa, which is having some blood vessels, okay, some nerve fibers may be also present, and here you are having the serous and mucus acini, okay, small serous and mucus acini which are present here. These are the blood vessels and the capillaries, okay, the connective tissue. And here if you see the lamina propria, it is also having the connective tissue and the mucus and serous acini, okay. That is needless to tell. Lamina propria we have already learned in the general features of the alimentary tract, okay. Now we have got here again in the region of muscularis externa, it is made up of inner circular smooth muscle. So here you are having the smooth muscle which is circular, that is having tapering ends, single, central, large, oval nucleus, and here you are having the longitudinal, outer longitudinal muscle cord, okay. So these are all the muscle fibers, and the base of your and the base you are having serosa, and in the serosa you see the squamous epithelium that is present. So that's how you are having the microscopic structure of the cardioesophageal junction. Okay. Now in continuation with the cardioesophageal junction or the gastroesophageal junction, you have got the body. We have got the body of the stomach. We are going to learn about that. Now if you see here the epithelial lining, the tall columnar cells which are present here in the tall columnar cells, now they become short columnar, okay, and they are dipping into the lamina propria. The epithelial cells, they are dipping into the lamina propria, and please observe the conducting part. This upper portion is now the conducting part, which is also called as the gastric pit. Now this is called the gastric pit, which is present only in the upper 1/3 of the lamina propria. Now we are talking about the body of the stomach, okay. In the body of the stomach, you have got the epithelium, okay, which is dipping into the lamina propria, and it forms gastric pit. How deep is it dipping? Just upper 1/3. And the lower portion here, it is showing the glands, okay. These are the gastric glands which we are trying to see. So 1, 2, 3 glands are opening into the one gastric pit. So you have got 3 to 5 glands. You have got 3 to 5 pyloric glands. We have got 3 to 5 gastric glands. Now we have 3 to 5 gastric glands which are opening in one single pit. Okay, so these are 1, 2, 3 gastric glands which are opening in single gastric pit, Like that we may be having even 7 gastric glands which are all opening in one gastric pit. So this gastric pit is nothing but upper 1/3 of that epithelium that had dipped into the lamina propria, which is occupying the upper 1/3 of the lamina propria. The lining epithelium, please see once again, the lining epithelium which had dipped into the lamina propria, occupying upper 1/3 of the lamina propria. Occupying the upper 1/3 of the lamina propria, you have got the gastric pits. And the lower 2/3 of the lamina propria, if you see, it is filled up with the secretory part, nothing but the glandular part. So here, if you see the sections, the gastric glands can appear like this, okay? That is in the sections, in the lower 2/3, where you have got the cells, okay? And these are all secreting the so many secretions. Now what are those so many? Now we are going to learn that. Okay, now here if you see, we have got, okay, the oxyntic cells. I am trying to draw. The oxyntic cells, they come out of the margin, okay? They are responsible for the beaded appearance. In the center, they have got the nucleus. The oxyntic cells. What I am trying to draw is the oxyntic cells. Oxyntic cells are also called the parietal cells, and what do? They produce the hydrochloric acid, and then they also produce the intrinsic factor for the absorption of B12. So what is the job of parietal cells or oxyntic cells? Production of hydrochloric acid. Also they produce the intrinsic factor for the absorption of vitamin B12. Now interspersed with them we have got the chief cells or the Zymogen cells, which are many in number. These chief cells or Zymogen cells, okay, they produce peptin. These chief cells are Zymogen cells. They are producing peptin. Are you able to appreciate? They are producing peptin. And then at the region of neck, you have got cells which are short columnar cells. These are the short columnar cells. These are called mucous neck cells. These mucous neck cells, they secrete mucus. These are called mucous neck cells. These mucous neck cells, they secrete mucus, which is going to protect the mucosa of the stomach from the effects of hydrochloric acid that is being produced by the oxyntic cells. The mucus is going to give protective effect for the mucosa, and it is going to prevent it from the toxic effects or the corrosive acts of the hydrochloric acid. You know, acid is corrosive, so that corrosion is prevented by the secretion, the mucoid secretion from the mucous neck cell. And here you have got some special cells called the basal cells. Okay, these basal cells, you know, wherever they are present, they are acting like stem cells. So here also you are having basal cells. So these basal cells, these are very small, right? They act like stem cells. And what these basal cells do? These basal cells are undifferentiated mesenchymal cells, which on demand are going to transform into the other cell. For example, the epithelium of the body of the stomach is replaced once in 3 days, and the mucous neck cells are replaced once in 7 days. So the basal cells, which are acting like stem cells, within 3 days they will transform themselves into the epithelial cells, and within 7 days they will transform themselves into the mucous neck cell. Also we have got one special type of cell here in the region of the stomach. I am using another color. These are called argentine cells, which are having affinity for silver salts. These are called argentine cells. These cells, they secrete serotonin. Argentine cells are secreting serotonin, okay, which is acting on the blood vessels that is present in the lamina propria. Now here what you have, in the same way, the Muscularis Externa will show the Muscularis Externa. What is the Muscularis Externa showing? It is showing the circular muscle cord, okay, inner circular muscle cord, and here you have got the outer longitudinal muscle cord, followed by the submucosa. This is again submucosa, right? So here you have got the inner circular and outer longitudinal muscle cord, and this is your submucosa. What is submucosa showing? It is showing some blood vessels, it is showing some connective tissue fibers and some small mucus or serous snake. That's all. Nothing very significant here. But now please look at the board. In the region of the stomach, that is the body of the stomach, the Muscularis Externa shows the oblique muscles. So here you are having obliquely placed smooth muscle. Then you have got circularly placed smooth muscle. And then you have got the longitudinally placed smooth muscle. Are you understanding? Here, this obliquely placed smooth muscle coat is the additional muscle layer that is present in the Muscularis Externa of the stomach. So this is the innermost, which is the oblique muscle layer. Then you have got the circular muscle layer. Now that becomes in the middle, and this is the outer longitudinal muscle layer. And that is all followed by serosa. So again you are having the serosal layer, which is the outermost layer lined by the squamous cells. Okay, now we will go with the, are you able to follow? Good. Now after this, we will go with the pylorus of the stomach. Thank you. Now we will learn the pylorus of the stomach. Histology of the pylorus we will learn. The pylorus of the stomach we are going to learn. Okay, now if you see this pylorus, okay, the epithelial lining is dipping into the lamina propria almost 2/3. So here, into the lamina propria, the upper 2/3 of lamina propria, you are having the conducting part, which is also called as gastric pit. So here, you are calling this as the gastric pit. And what is its location in the lamina propria? In the lamina propria, upper 2/3 of it is nothing but the pit. So here you are having the columnar cells, right, which are lining the pit. And the upper 2/3 is occupied by the gastric pit. And here we have to draw the nuclei. So we are having the nuclei, right? So that's how we have the nuclei. And now here, if you see the basal part of the gastric gland, it is coiled here in the region of the pylorus. So here you are getting the gland which is coiled. Because it is coiled, it is giving this type of appearance. The secretory component is coiled upon itself. Because of the coiled appearance, you see the glands are placed very close to each other only in the lower one-third of the lamina propria of the pylorus of the stomach. Now we are discussing about the pylorus of the stomach. So this is the pyloric part of the stomach we are seeing, where upper 2/3 is the conducting part and lower 1/3 of the lamina propria is the secretory part or the secretory unit, and these glands are called pyloric glands. Please understand, the glands which are present in the pyloric part are called pyloric glands. Okay, these are the pyloric glands, and those which are present here in the body, they are called gastric glands. Okay, now here you have got the pyloric glands, and they produce the hormone gastrin. So you should remember, the pyloric glands are producing the hormone gastrin. Okay, so this you should understand. The terminal part of the gland is, the basal 1/3 of the lamina propria, or the lower 1/3 of the lamina propria, is showing the secretory unit which is coiled upon itself. So when you take a section, you are getting all these, in this way you see the pyloric glands which are present in the pyloric part of the stomach, more towards the base and occupying only the lower 1/3 of the basal lamina. Then again you have got the inner circular layer, then you have got the outer longitudinal muscle cord. So here you have got the circular layers, right? And this, if you observe, this is the outer longitudinal muscle cord. And again you are having the submucosa. The submucosa is showing the blood, capillaries and some connective tissue, right? So here you have got, and underneath this, please observe, we are now drawing the Muscularis Externa of pyloric part of the stomach. The Muscularis Externa is having a very thick coat of circular smooth muscles present. You don't have oblique muscle coat here. What you are having is a very thick layer of circular muscle coat because you want sphincters. You know, the pyloric sphincter is there present. Because of the presence of pyloric sphincter, what you are having because of the presence of pyloric sphincter, you are having very thick muscular coat. You don't have any oblique coat here in the region of the pylorus of the stomach. That's why I have drawn the entire diagram of the different portions of the stomach for you to appreciate the differences, right? And again, the outermost layer will be the serosa. That needless for me to tell. The outermost layer is the serosa, which is nothing but a squamous epithelium that is present. Are you understanding what exactly we are trying to learn? Again, if you see the cells that are present in the pyloric gland, same way you have got the Zymogen cells, the oxyntic cells, argentophin cells you are having. In addition to that, they produce the gastrin. The hormone gastrin is produced by these pyloric glands, which are present in the lower 1/3 of the basal part of the lamina propria of the pylorus of the stomach. Here, the Muscularis Externa, which is showing a very thick layer or thick arrangement of smooth muscle cells, because the pyloric sphincter is made up of the smooth muscle cells which are circularly arranged. Circularly arranged smooth muscles. What I wanted to tell you is circularly arranged smooth muscles, they form the sphincter. So the Muscularis Externa shows a very thick coat of circularly arranged smooth muscles, followed by a thin layer of longitudinal muscle coat, and then we have got the serosa, which is the outermost layer. Now we are going to learn the differences between the different parts of the stomach. Now we are going to learn the microscopic differences or histological differences between the different parts of the stomach. You know, we have divided the stomach into first, that is the cardio-esophageal junction or the gastroesophageal junction, that is where the esophagus opens into the stomach. Second, we said the body of the stomach. Third, that is the pylorus of the stomach. Now we will start with the esophagus. If you see the mucosal lining of the mucosal epithelium of the esophagus, it is stratified squamous non-keratinized epithelium. This stratified squamous non-keratinized epithelium of the esophagus, abruptly it will become columnar. So you have got abrupt change where it becomes a simple columnar epithelium. One layer of columnar cells. And these columnar cells in the apical port, they have in the apical part, these columnar cells in the apical part, they have got Mucigen granules. What they have? Mucigen granules. These are actually precursor of mucus. You know, when we have talked about trachea and the other epitheliums, you know, some of them we had discussed about goblet cell. When we talked about trachea, we discussed about goblet cell, the unicellular cell that secretes the mucus. We have discussed about that. But here we don't have any mucus cells. The Mucigen granules only, which are the precursors of the mucus, will transform into mucus. Okay? Then the epithelium is seen dipping into the lamina propria, so it forms one tubular gland. The dipping of the epithelium into the lamina propria, because the mucosa is having first epithelium layer, next lamina propria and muscularis mucosa. These three are the components of the gastric mucosa. The epithelium, which is lining at the surface, it is now dipping into the lamina propria up to the level of the muscularis mucosa. So what is that we are seeing? A tubular gland is what we are seeing. Upper half of this is acting like conducting part where it is lined by short columnar cells. The lower half is acting like the secretory unit or the glandular part. The lower half is showing oxyntic cells or parietal cells which secrete the hydrochloric acid. The Zymogen cells or the chief cells, or one more name, peptic cells. These are the names of the chief cells of the Zymogen cells, okay, which are secreting peptin. And what is that oxyntic cells they are doing? They are producing hydrochloric acid. Also, intrinsic factor for the absorption of vitamin B12 is produced by these oxyntic cells or the parietal cells. Now, coming to the second part, that is the body of the stomach. The body of the stomach is showing same way the dipping of the epithelial cells, but upper 1/3. So here at the region of upper 1/3, this is acting, or up to the level of upper 1/3, this is acting like conducting part, and this is called the gastric pit. What is it called? Gastric pit, occupying the upper 1/3 of the basal lamina. And if you see the glands, these are called the gastric glands, they are occupying the lower 2/3 of the lamina propria. Please observe, 3 to 7 gastric glands, they open into one gastric pit. Are you understanding? Look at the board. We have what? 1, 2, 3 gastric glands. These gastric glands, they are opening into one gastric pit. So maybe 3, maybe 4, maybe 5. All of them are opening into one single gastric pit. Now if you consider these gastric glands, they have lots of cells which are of different types present in them. Firstly, there are the oxyntic cells or the parietal cells which produce hydrochloric acid, and also the intrinsic factor which is responsible for the absorption of vitamin B12. So we got the oxyntic cells or the parietal cells. The second type of cells what we are having here are the chief cells or the Zymogen cells or the peptic cell. Chief cell, Zymogen cell or the peptic cell, these produce pepsin. Also we have got argentafin cells which are having affinity for silver salts, and these argentafin cells, they produce serotonin. The serotonin will act on the blood capillaries that are present in the region of lamina propria and the nearby region. In the same way you have got mucous neck cell and basal cells. Now what are mucous neck cell? At the region of the, here at the region of the junction between the gastric pit and the gastric gland here, we got the mucous neck cells. These mucous neck cells, they are secreting mucus. Now what is the job of this mucus? It will give protection to the stomach. The secretion of the mucous neck cell is mucosa. This mucus will give protection to the gastric mucosa from the corrosive action of hydrochloric acid that is being produced by the oxyntic cells or the parietal cells. So the mucus secreted by the mucous neck cell is giving protection. Then we have got basal cells or stem cells. The basal cells, which are basically the undifferentiated mesenchymal cells, they are acting like stem cells. What do? They transform themselves into those cells which are short off. For example, the epithelial cells, they are replaced here once in 3 days, and the mucous neck cells are replaced once in 7 days. The epithelial cells are replaced once in 3 days, and the mucous neck cells are replaced once in 7 days. The basal cells will transform themselves into either the mucous neck cells or the epithelial cells on demand, on need. Okay? Then, if you see the Muscularis Mucosa, the Muscularis Mucosa is made up of inner circular and outer longitudinal cord. Beneath that you have got the submucosa with some blood vessels and capillaries, and beneath that you have got the Muscularis Externa of the stomach we are talking. The Muscularis Externa of the body of the stomach will show oblique muscle layer added up to the circular and longitudinal muscle cord. So they will ask you, what are the layers of the muscle? What are the layers of the Muscularis Externa in the body of stomach? So the layers in the body of the stomach there are 3 muscle cords: oblique muscle layer, which is innermost, followed by circular muscle cord, and followed by longitudinal muscle cord. Stomach is compared with a grinder. Why stomach is called grinder? Because it is able to grind the food. So even if you have eaten big particles, no problem. Your stomach will churn the food. What is this action called? Churning the food. And the food is now having acidic pH. The pH of the food in the stomach is acidic. Why is it acidic? Because of the hydrochloric acid that is present, it becomes acidic. Okay? Because of the three muscle cords which are present in the Muscularis Externa, the innermost being the oblique, middle being the circular, outermost being the longitudinal, churning action of the food is very well done by the stomach. Then you have got the pyloric portion of the stomach, the last part here where the sphincter is present. The pyloric portion of the stomach, it is also showing the dipping of the epithelium into the lamina propria. But the dipping of the epithelium is very deep, and here we have got the upper 2/3 of lamina propria is acting like the conducting part or gastric pit. The gastric pits which are present in the pylorus of the stomach, they are occupying upper 2/3 of the lamina propria. And if you take the secretory part is seen only in the lower 1/3 of the lamina propria. Only in the lower 1/3 of the lamina propria there is secretory part. And these glands are showing lots of coiling, because when you take a section of the gland which is showing lots of coiling, here you get these so many pyloric glands it is happening. The lower 2/3 of the lamina propria, the lower 2/3 of the lamina propria at the pyloric region shows the secretory units, and these are called pyloric glands. And the pyloric glands, they secrete gastrin. It's very important. They also have oxygentic cells, parietal cells, argentafin cells, they are also having. But what is the special function they are doing is they are secreting hormone gastrin, the pyloric glands. And followed by this, you have got the inner circular and outer longitudinal coat of the Muscularis mucosa. Then you have got the submucosa, but here you have got a very thick coat of circular muscles in the Muscularis Externa. In the Muscularis Externa of the pylorus of the stomach, you have got a very thick circular muscle coat, and that's how you get the formation of pyloric sphincter. There is pyloric sphincter formed by the circular smooth muscles alone. Of course, after the thick circular muscle coat in the pylorus of the stomach, you also have a thin longitudinal muscle coat, and then you have got the serosa, which is the last layer that is present. Now let us quickly revise the histology of the stomach. We are going to divide the stomach into three regions. What is that? One is the cardio-esophageal junction or the gastro-esophageal junction, where the esophagus is opening into the stomach. Then we have the body of the stomach, and the last part near the sphincter, the pyloric sphincter is the pyloric part. Now we have to start from the esophagus. If you see the lining epithelium of the esophagus, it is stratified squamous non-keratinized epithelium. So what is that? Layers are present and the topmost layers don't have keratin. Stratified squamous, more than 2 layers of cells that are present. The epithelium will abruptly become simple columnar epithelium, where you have the columnar cells. The columnar cells, they have got nucleus more towards the base, and the supranuclear part or the apical part of the columnar cells, they show Mucigen granules. They are showing Mucigen granules. We don't have goblet cells here, but the production of mucus is taken over by this Mucigen, by these columnar cells, because they produce Mucigen granules. This Mucigen is the precursor of the mucus that is seen, okay? And then if you see, the epithelium dips into the lamina propria. The epithelium dips into the lamina propria. Here we have got upper half of the gastric gland. The upper half of it is conducting part, whereas the lower half of it or the basal half of it is the secretory part. Now what type of cells are present in these tubular glands that are present in the cardio-esophageal junction? Predominantly you have 2 types of cells. One is oxygentic cells or the parietal cells. You see it is coming beyond the margin of the basement membrane and it is giving a beaded appearance, is because of this oxygentic cell or the parietal cell which produces the hydrochloric acid and also the intrinsic factor for the absorption of vitamin B12. And the second type of cell what you have are the chief cells or the Zymogen cells, which is also called peptic cells. These are producing pepsin. Okay? Then followed that we have got in the layer of Muscularis mucosa, inner circular outer longitudinal muscle cord. Beneath that we have got the submucosa, and beneath that we have got the Muscularis Externa, which is showing the inner circular and outer longitudinal muscle cord, finally followed by the serosa, which is the outermost layer lined by a single layer of squamous cells. Now coming to the body of the stomach, okay, the body of the stomach is also showing the epithelium, the columnar cells. They are dipping into the lamina propria. The lamina propria is showing upper 1/3 of the lamina propria is showing the conducting part, which is also called gastric pit, and the lower 2/3 of the lamina propria is showing the gastric glands. The gastric glands may be 2, 3, 5 or even 7 gastric glands. They all open in one single gastric pit. Sometimes 3 are opening, sometimes 5 are opening in one single gastric pit. Now what are the cells that are present in the gastric glands? They are the oxyntic cells or the parietal cells, which produce the hydrochloric acid, also the intrinsic factor for the absorption of vitamin B12. Chi cells or the Zymogen cells or the peptic cells, they produce pepsin. You have Argentophin cells, a special type of cells which are having affinity for the silver salts. These Argentophin cells, they produce serotonin. And then we have got the mucous neck cells. The mucous neck cells, these are producing mucus. This mucus is giving protection from the corrosive action of hydrochloric acid to the gastric mucosa. Okay, the mucus produced by the mucous neck cell is giving protection to the gastric mucosa from the corrosive action of the hydrochloric acid. Then we also have the basal cells, which are acting like stem cells, the undifferentiated mesenchymal cells, which on demand transform themselves into the mucous neck cells or into the epithelial cells on demand. If you see the epithelial cells, they are shut off every 3rd day, and the mucous neck cells, they are shut off once in 7 days. So according to the need, the stem cells will transform themselves into the mucous neck cells or the epithelial cells. Now after that is the lamina propria, we will go to the Muscularis Externa, because in the region of Muscularis Externa of the body of the stomach, we have got additional oblique smooth muscle layer. Generally, when we talk about Muscularis Externa, we say we have 2 layers. What are they? Inner circular, outer longitudinal. But in the body of the stomach, there is oblique muscle coat. Okay, so you have 3 muscle layers in the body of the stomach. What are they? Innermost is the oblique muscle layer, followed by the circular muscle layer, followed by the longitudinal muscle layer. And what is the action the stomach is doing? Churning of the food. That's why we compare stomach with the grinder. And then followed by the pylorus of the stomach, that is the portion of the stomach close to the pyloric sphincter is called the pylorus. If you see the pylorus here, the pylorus is showing the gastric pits, which are occupying the upper 2/3 of the lamina propria. Here if you see, the gastric pit is so deep, it is occupying the upper 2/3 of the lamina propria, and the basal portion is showing the the glands. Now in the region of pylorus, we use the word pyloric glands. We use here now the word pyloric glands. So these pyloric glands, if you see, they are nothing but a tubular glands only, but coiled upon themselves. So when you take a section, because of the coiling of the tubular glands, you see this type of appearance of the secretory glands that are present in the pyloric part of the stomach. That is the lower 1/3 of the lamina propria of the pylorus shows the secretory units. Upper 2/3 of the lamina propria of the pylorus is showing the gastric pits. Now, after that we have got the inner circular and outer longitudinal layer of the Muscularis Mucosae, and then you have got the submucosae. Finally, you have got the Muscularis Externa. Now, the Muscularis Externa of the pylorus is very, very distinctly seen because of dense accumulation or collection of circular muscle fibers, enabling the formation of a sphincter. So sphincter is in the pyloric region, and what are the cells which are forming the sphincters? The circularly arranged smooth muscle cells. The circularly arranged smooth muscle cells, they form the sphincter, and that's what we are able to see at the pylorus, the pyloric part of the stomach. Okay, thank you very much. Now very frequently they will be asking in vivas and in exams, what is the difference between the body of the stomach and the pylorus of the stomach histologically? What is the difference between the body and the pyloric parts of the stomach histologically? So you should be able to tell, starting from the mucosa. Now you know the GIT, when we talk about the wall of the GIT, we say it is having 4 layers. What are they? You have got the mucosa, submucosa, muscularis externa, serosa. And if you see the mucosa, it's not a single layer, but it is having 3 components. Okay, that is the epithelium, first layer. Second one is the lamina propria. Third is the muscularis mucosa. Then we have got the submucosa, the muscularis externa. In the muscularis externa, again we have got circularly arranged and longitudinally arranged smooth muscles. Most of the times inner is circular in GIT, in the gastrointestinal tract. The circular muscle coat is arranged inner and the longitudinal muscle coat is arranged outer, okay, outside. And then the outermost layer is the serosa or the adventitia. Now coming to the mucosa of the body of the stomach and mucosa of the pylorus of the stomach. If you see the lining epithelium, here we have got the columnar cells, here also we are having the columnar cells. Then where is the difference? The epithelium invaginates into the lamina propria only in the upper 1/3 of the lamina propria. The invagination of the epithelial cells extends only up to upper 1/3 of the lamina propria, forming gastric pits. These glands which are present in the body of the stomach are called gastric glands. The gastric glands, more or less, they are tubular glands. Only at that region where they are touching the circular smooth muscle coat of the muscularis mucosa, they may show some coiling. They may show some coiling only at the terminal part or the basal part. And if you see the gland, it has got the parts. This portion towards the circular smooth muscle is called base. This is called the base. In the middle portion is called the body, and here upper part is called the neck. Now what are the parts of the gastric gland? You have got the base, okay, you have got the body, and you got the neck, which is more towards the gastric pit. These are the 3 parts of the gastric gland. Now what are the cells that are present here in the gastric glands? We have already discussed. Now if you see, that is one difference in the lamina propria of the body of the stomach. You have got upper 1/3, you are having the gastric pits, lower 2/3 of lamina propria, you have got the gastric glands. But if you see the pylorus of the stomach, the epithelial dipping extends up to upper 2/3 of lamina propria, and this is what we call gastric pit. The gastric pits in the pylorus are very, very deep. How deep? The entire upper 2/3 of the lamina propria is occupied by the gastric pit, whereas the lower 1/3 of the lamina propria you are seeing gastric glands. Now you don't use the word gastric gland, you use the word pyloric gland, because they are present in the pylorus of the stomach. And what is the difference between gastric gland? Here more or less they are tubular. Here also the pyloric glands are tubular but coiled upon themselves. Because they are coiled upon themselves, okay, they show coiling. Here the pyloric glands, they show coiling. Because of coiling, here when you take a section, you get like this, they are coiled in appearance, and they secrete the gastrin. The pyloric glands, they secrete gastrin. Now coming to the muscularis externa. What is the difference between the muscularis externa of the body of the stomach and pylorus of the stomach? Please see, here the muscularis externa of the body of the stomach shows 3 layers. Innermost oblique muscle layer, followed by intermediate or middle circular layer. Outermost is the longitudinal muscle layer. If you take the pylorus, you have got only 2 layers, inner circular and outer longitudinal muscle coat. The inner circular muscle coat is very, very thick, and because of the thick muscle coat, you are having the formation of sphincters. Okay, the pylorus is guarded by a pyloric sphincter. So how you get the sphincter? It is nothing but a thick or a dense collection of circularly arranged smooth muscle fibers, which is forming the pyloric sphincter. You don't have any oblique muscle coat here. You don't have any oblique muscle coat here in the region of pylorus. I hope I am clear. Thank you.